What if Huggy Wuggy remembered who he was in the middle of the massacre? Not after, not years later, right at the exact moment he was about to kill someone, because that changes everything. If he remembers, he's not just a monster anymore. He becomes a flaw inside the Playtime system. So subscribe to the channel, because this isn't just a theory. This is a version of the story where Huggy doesn't run, he understands. And that is much worse. Playtime Company begins like any other company. Toys, marketing, charismatic characters, but that doesn't last. Over time, the company starts crossing boundaries, first subtly, then completely. The Bigger Bodies Initiative emerges as a secret project. The idea was simple: replace humans with something more efficient, stronger, more obedient. To do that, they used real bodies, mostly orphans, people with no voice, no choice, bodies that would be transformed into living versions of the company's mascots. And among all those experiments, one stands out: Huggy Wuggy. Created as a toy in 1984, and later turned into experiment 1170 in 1990, a massive organism designed for security, a perfect guardian, obedient, aggressive when necessary, and fully functional within the system. He doesn't think, he doesn't question, he doesn't remember, he just waits until the day everything changes. August 8th, 1995, the day that would later be known as the Hour of Joy. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't a failure. It was a decision. The prototype takes control of the factory and orchestrates a complete massacre against every human inside. And when he decides to act, everyone else obeys. Doors lock, systems fail, screams echo through the halls. Employees try to escape, but there is no way out, because now the entire factory is alive and hunting. Huggy Wuggy is activated. He moves exactly as he was designed to: precise, silent, calculated. He finds his first victim and advances without hesitation, because for him, this isn't violence, it's function. But at that exact moment, something breaks. The instant he raises his arm to kill, something appears. It's not a command, it's not a glitch. It's a memory, a face, a sound, a feeling that should not exist inside that body, because that body wasn't born like this. It was built. It was filled with someone who used to exist, and that changes everything. The attack fails. The body moves forward, but stops at the last second. The employee escapes without understanding what just happened, and Huggy stands there, for the first time, not because of programming, but because of doubt. And inside Playtime, doubt does not exist. The massacre continues around him. Other experiments keep attacking. Some scream, some chase, some simply execute. But Huggy is no longer functioning the same way. He still kills, but now he sees. Every movement begins to carry weight. Every action stops being automatic. He observes. He realizes. He understands that this isn't natural, that this shouldn't be him. But his body keeps going, and that is the worst part, because now he is trapped inside himself, and something notices that flaw. The prototype. He is not just another experiment. He is the center of everything, the one behind the massacre, the one behind the control, the one who turned the factory into a functioning, obedient system. And inside that system, errors are removed. The pressure begins. At first, it's subtle, like something pulling Huggy back into place. His movements become sharper, faster,
more direct. For a moment, he returns to normal. He kills without hesitation. But then, he sees again. And this time, he understands. He isn't obeying. He is being controlled. And that creates something that should never exist inside Playtime. Resistance. Not perfect, not enough, but real. Huggy begins to fail. Small pauses, small delays. He observes before attacking. He hesitates for seconds that should not exist. And that changes everything. Because now, he is no longer a tool. He is an error. And errors do not survive. But even so, he keeps going. Not to escape, not to save anyone, but to understand.
He starts following something inside the factory. Not a physical path, but a presence, a point of origin, something he feels more than sees, the control, the prototype. And for the first time, Huggy Wuggy moves without being told. For the first time since he was created, Huggy Wuggy is not following a command. He is choosing. His movement is different, slower, more calculated. Not because he was programmed that way, but because now he is thinking. And that should not exist inside a Playtime experiment, because they were all made with a purpose: to serve, to work, to obey, to replace humans, not become one again. But Huggy begins to break that rule. He moves through the corridors as the massacre continues, bodies scattered, doors torn apart. The sound of metal dragging echoes through the halls. The entire factory feels alive, organized, as if everything is working exactly as intended. Because to the prototype, this is not destruction, it is correction. And Huggy realizes it. He is not in chaos. He is inside a system. And that system has a center. Each step takes him deeper, further into the factory, closer to the source of control. He doesn't know how he knows, but he feels it, as if something is pulling him there, as if the factory itself is watching. And maybe it is, because the prototype doesn't need to see. He already knows. The presence appears before the body. There is no clear shape, no defined silhouette, only something wrong, something that should not exist. The prototype does not move like the others. He doesn't crawl. He doesn't run. He doesn't chase. He waits. And when Huggy arrives, he understands. That is not just an experiment. That is what all of them were meant to become. The final evolution. Absolute control. The point where Playtime Company no longer needed humans. Because the prototype didn't just survive. He took over. And he looks at Huggy as if he already knew, you shouldn't be here. The pressure hits instantly. Not physical, mental, as if something is trying to invade, pull, rewrite. Huggy freezes. His body responds. His arms move against his will. The system tries to restore control, because inside Playtime, everything must function. But this time, something resists. Huggy tries to move forward. Every step feels wrong, like fighting something invisible, like his own body no longer belongs to him. And maybe it never did, but he keeps going. And then he attacks. The movement is raw, unstable, imperfect, unlike anything he has ever done before, because this time, it is not execution, it is will. For a second, the prototype steps back, not out of weakness, but analysis, as if recalculating, as if understanding what is happening, because this should not be possible. an experiment, resisting, but the moment ends. Control returns, stronger, much stronger. Huggy's body locks completely. His legs stop, his arms twist. He tries to move, but cannot. Every command he attempts is overwritten. Every attempt to resist is erased, because the prototype is not just fighting, he is correcting, and Huggy is in error. The connection intensifies. It feels like something is pulling everything out of him. Movement, strength, control, and little by little, he starts to lose, but not completely, because his mind is still there, and now it remembers. The fragments come together, not like before, not like scattered flashes, but something clearer, more real, a name that almost makes sense, a place that once existed, a feeling that should not be there, but is, fear, and then understanding. He wasn't born like this. He was made like this. He wasn't a monster. He was turned into one. And for the first time since the beginning, he understands everything. What Playtime did, what the experiments are, what the factory became, and what he became. But it's too late. The prototype doesn't hesitate. He doesn't feel. He doesn't remember. He just executes. Huggy's body begins to collapse, structure failing, strength fading. There is no more resistance, no more fight. The system wins, like it always does. But this time, something is different, because in the end, Huggy is no longer fighting. He is accepting, not control, but truth. He remembers who he was, not completely, but enough. Enough to know this should never have happened. Enough to understand there is no going back. Enough to realize he was just another one. And then he stops resisting, stops trying, stops obeying, and for the first time, he chooses to do nothing. The body falls, silence returns, the massacre ends, but the factory continues, because the system does not depend on one. It does not depend on Huggy. It does not depend on anyone. It has already evolved beyond that, and the prototype remains, watching, learning, adjusting. After that day, nothing fails again. No experiment hesitates. No one remembers, because the error was identified and removed. And maybe Huggy Wuggy was never the beginning of the flaw. Maybe he was the last one, because after him, the Playtime system finally became perfect.